Welcome to the Creative Endeavor Podcast. This is the podcast bringing you inspiring stories from creative professionals from around the world. It's real conversations with real artists. My name's Andrew Tischler. What a pleasure it is to have your company here once again. In this episode, I'm talking to Joel Rea, who's an amazing, realistic, surrealistic artist based in Australia. He's somebody that I've been following for the last 10 years, and ever since I first came across his work, I've been blown away since. He's got an incredible style, so lifelike, so realistic, but this incredible mixture of imagery that tells a story and leaves the viewer pondering its deeper meanings and ultimately reflecting something of themselves in the work. I wanted to ask him all about his painting, but also what makes him tick creatively. What are some of the things that he thinks about? What does he listen to while he's painting? What are some of the ideas that he enjoys? And this was really so enlightening for me to hear what goes on in another artist's mind. There was so much here that we had in common, and it was fun just bouncing some of these ideas back and forth. Look, I really hope you enjoyed this episode and get something out of it, because I certainly did. Now, before we get into the podcast, I have to let you know about something really important. If you're listening to the audio version, which you are if you're hearing my voice right now, did you know that there's an exclusive video version loaded with visuals? You can see Joel in his studio, and I'm coming to him from my studio, and we're putting in there some images of his paintings and some of the things that we're talking about through this conversation. So it really is a whole nother level to this experience. If you love the Creative Endeavor podcast and you want to watch the exclusive video version, then you can find that right now by clicking that link in the description down below and signing up for Tisch Academy. Simply go to tisch.academy, T-I-S-C-H, and at the base level studio tier, so that's a very basic subscription at $5 a month, you've got exclusive access to the video version of the podcast, but also loads of more content, like more content than you could shake a brush at. It's really insane how much content is on Tisch Academy. Content to help you with your painting, with your creative professional journey. There's so much there, more than I can explain here in this intro. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Jump in, try it for 7 days for free. And if you don't love it, no hard feelings, but I guarantee you're going to love it. So go ahead and click that link in the description, and I'll see you over there at Tisch Academy. And you can check out the video version of this podcast in the exclusive podcast library. All right, I'm going to get out of here. We'll let Joel take over. Here he is. This is Joel Rea and the Creative Endeavor.
I'm pretty, personally proud of, obviously what I'm doing, what I've done. And I just feel like there's so much more ahead. So, I mean, as far as I think what I can do best for the listeners. I mean, do you think people are listening? I just honestly would love to have someone get something out of it. You know?
Well,
yeah.
that's going to happen. So what I find happens is, whenever I talk to an artist, there's always something there. Like, we all have a story. We all have this massive adventure that we've been on. And it's interesting that a lot of us, I do this, a lot of artists that I talk to do this as well. We diminish our own story, and we don't realize that we actually have something of value. But the minute you really share from the heart, I think there's this point of resonance within whoever's listening or watching that they're like, oh yeah. And so as you were saying, to your point, you're a regular piece of whatever. I love that. But the thing is that there's also something there that is magical, just because here you are, and here you are doing your thing, regardless of where you're at.
No, I mean, artists are one of those weird groups, we could actually live for 10,000 years in culture. If we do the right kind of moves, we could live much longer than, say, a hedge fund billionaire. They're going to make the most money and be the most capitalistic and be, the most kind of king-like. But yeah, we have this weird ability to make something that just like sticks to the earth like glue for a while, you know, like,
I
and
love that.
yeah,
Yeah. But
so
I mean, to your point, I guess, you know, it's the hedge fund billionaire dudes that are funding us, some of us.
yeah, bring them on.
So if it weren't for our good old billionaire buddies, you know,
Yeah.
don't stop buying
No,
them candles,
I
please.
do appreciate like all kinds of success, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I think uh I think in terms of like making objects,
Mm,
like paintings, like that's a weird one, you know, like even Conor McGregor might have a difficult time outliving me unless the digital world continues. Like say everything goes to in an apocalypse and paintings are like put underground and you know
yeah.
everything digital gets wiped and then we have these old artifacts. Like what's Conor McGregor's artifact?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Where's the show reel?
yeah, what are
Where's
they
that?
going to do for a time capsule for him? I mean, if digital is a race, you consider that they're going to have a pair of his boxing gloves, you
Or
know,
maybe a
like
bronze statue out the front of the Octagon
yeah, maybe
Arena.
a bronze. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's
Yeah.
what you see of people who were like him. It was like the
Yeah.
artist's job to make them live forever, you know. So we do have
Wow.
a pretty important job, you know, like we can
Wow.
make we can make the most important figures live longer. So let's do it.
Why not? Why not, man? Okay. Well, look, it looks like we've already started, bro. So if you're happy to jump in, let's just go. Let's just go
Yeah.
with this because you're coming to me from Brisbane, right? Over
No,
there,
Gold Coast, which is an
Gold
hour
Coast,
south. Yeah.
hour
So
south of Brisbane.
I always come up on like Brisbane as far as like if you look me up, I'll probably like say Brisbane.
Mhm.
I spent like 2 years of my fine art degree in Brisbane, and then I spent 8 years belonging to like an artist run gallery in Brisbane after that.
Mhm.
So I've got a real strong connection with Brisbane, but I've always lived on the actual Gold Coast, which is it's a bit of a juxtaposition. Brisbane is like on the river, it's very metropolis, and then there's
Mhm.
like Gold Coast, which is like surface paradise. It's like beaches and you know fun, and then crazy nightclubs, little kind of Las Vegas scene happening, you know, bikie gangs, and then beautiful hinterlands, and then you know like Gold Coast is kind of like this sitcom of Australia,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like getting more and more, and I'm really enjoying the spectatorship of the Gold Coast. It's just I love getting out and about. I've got like 5 young kids, you
Yeah.
know, so it's just such a joy to like kind of go out and you see like these kind of steroid guys and the Instagram model girls and everyone's got tattoos galore and everyone's really like going headfirst into their own like personal culture on the Gold
Mhm.
Coast. So yeah, I really like to make sure people know that's where I'm from and that's what I'm about because it's a real
Sure.
unique place.
So
Yeah,
interesting place to be an observer. Then it sounds like.
it's awesome. Like you know, and the scenery. The scenery is where like I
Mm.
get so much of my inspiration from. Like we just get perfect skies, perfect beaches year round,
Mm.
sunsets, you know, sunrises, and you know, like I said, like endless parks and hinterlands and like waterfalls and natural kind of stuff. And we live out on kind of like acreage, so we get like all the you know the marsupials, the koalas, and the wallabies, and yeah, so yeah, pretty
Brilliant.
spoiled, you know. And I'm trying to do this as like a tourism thing too, because I want people to come to the Gold Coast now because I got my studio kind of thing happening where it's really like good for visitors. And I'm like, okay, maybe this can be
I'm
like
coming. Oh, cool, dude.
yeah,
I'm
come to
there.
the Gold Coast. Everyone come. You definitely come. Far
So
out, man.
tell me, man, tell me about this new space because this is incredible. You've got like the painter's dream space. And
Yeah.
so are you coming to me now? It looks like you're on a mezzanine floor right now. I'm looking
Yeah.
through
So
that
I'll
window.
just do a little turn. So there's the big mez window.
Dude.
And there's some weights. And there's like my little jam corner there.
Cool, dude.
I'm just getting set up still, but like, yeah, I'm totally like frothing out. I'm having like, you know, the best time of my life here. And
Brilliant.
but I'll say this, you know, like if anyone's gonna get like, you know, vibes of jealousy or whatever, just know like I've had some really times and hard times, and I used
Mm,
to really like just have to accept those things.
mm,
And this is a good time in my life and a good
brilliant.
thing. And I've just got to accept this also. Like
Yeah.
accept the shit things, accept the shit times, and then when good things happen, accept them as well. You know, like
There you
so.
go.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I'm not like gonna try and like justify this or anything, like, but this is basically just like fish tank principle. I need to grow, and this, I want this size of the tank to dictate how big I can grow as a fish, as an artist fish. So I used to have actually like African and American cichlid fish from this very specific lake called Malawi in Africa, and they'd be in this tank. So the fish tank philosophy, they'll only grow to the size of their tank.
Dude, I had cichlids.
There you go. So I think a lot of artists are drawn to the beauty.
What's with that?
Yeah. Well, they're awesome, man. They're like little aliens, and
they've got so much personality too.
Yeah,
like they've got individual personalities.
Yeah, they fight and they have these little territories, and so anyway, to put it like bluntly, that's kind of what I really need to do. I was getting super comfortable at home, making me a bit complacent, making me a bit relaxed, way too relaxed. And way too distracted with the kids. It's a beautiful space, like out there, to be just like amongst your home and stuff. But I was definitely and now like I'm in the kind of like an industrial area, so like the biggest kind of like concrete plant on the Gold Coast is like on this road, so all day like all these kind of cement trucks and heavy, and I'm really inspired by like the people moving this world constantly with their hard work and just toil, and and it's given me a great kind of perspective, because I'm up in the morning, I'm like driving to work, I'm like doing the kind of the late shifts with these kind of people I can hear all around me, and like this is what it's all about. Like people coming from like middle class, people are just like, they're just not complaining and they're just getting on with it, and that's just what I want to do. Like I just want to be like inspiring to the people who want to be inspired, and to everyone else I'm totally fine with not existing. Like that's my perspective.
You touched on a lot there. I want to go back to the jealousy thing. I want to share something with you. I'm a little bit embarrassed to share this with you, but you and your art is very important for me, because it was kind of it was a bit of a road marker. And back in the day, I think we're going back now to 2013, 2014. So this is like a decade ago, right?
Yeah.
And I just found out about you. I was looking at some stuff, and I remember kind of having a look at Facebook followings and all that sort of thing. It was you and another dude that I was looking at. I'm ashamed to admit this, but I'm going to do it here. Whatever. Vincent Fantaso. It was the other guy. And I was looking at this art and these monumental Facebook followings that you had and others. And just little old me, I remember getting really jealous at that point. Man, it took me years to turn that around. But there was something about you, like here you are, and looking at that, I didn't realize at the time that was a cue. But now, fortunately, I've outgrown that. It took me too long, I'm ashamed to say. But I look at other people doing well, other people like kicking massive goals, other people putting in the hard slog, and I get inspired. Now I get excited about it. So, because the way I see it is like, there's really no separation here at all. Other people's success is my success, if you choose to look at it that way. And it's like, success leaves clues. If you want to get what they got, find out what they did and do something similar, and it's really as simple as that. And I found that now, it's been, it's interesting, what you were saying about, like, we do have the tendency to diminish ourselves based on that success. You don't want to share it with other people because of fear what they might say. But I think, man, this is awesome. This is an awesome next step. I think you're going to grow into a very big fish now. You are already a big fish, bro. But I mean, the size of that space, congratulations. It's a beautiful space too. But I'm just excited to see what's next, what kind of paintings you're producing next. And
big
I do
one.
in this,
that's the big fish thing. Like when I say big fish,
man.
I'm not the big fish. Like I'm saying the work's going to be, I don't know, like I just got this vibe that all of a sudden, like I got to do work that just speaks to like this thing that is like, I don't know what it's, God or nature, like whatever this power is. I see it. I see whatever the world has. I'm a portal for it. It's like and now I just got to make work, not for any audience, but that, like, it's just got to be kind of like, all right, I want to be the guy, like, maybe when I'm gone, like they just go, this guy went all out because he saw other people go all, like, I have seen these paintings, these Renaissance paintings, or these like, historical pieces of work, and I go, man, like they just went all out, and they did it no matter what was going on in their world at the time. They got through the problems. They didn't, I mean, think about it. Think of these like striking kind of like paintings that took years and years by these artists, right?
Yeah.
And then you think about the politics and the world and the society they lived in. It would have been way harder. It would have been way more struggles. I mean, some of those people had like kings for patrons and stuff like that. But I'm talking about, to put things in perspective, like this is so cushy. Everything that I've got going here as an artist, the only thing I can do to justify it for myself is actually get uncomfortable and like work on the concrete floor and do like, get up on a ladder for about 3 months and just see what that feels like. Because this like, ability to get really comfortable, it kills art. Like it really does. It kind of, well, kills my art anyway. It's not where it was born from, and it's not where it's going to thrive. My stuff always comes out of like this almost like anxiety of like outrunning something, so this time it's like I've got to throw myself into like this kind of like expensive big studio. I got to make it work because I got to turn it into sales to afford everything, support my whole family through that income. My wife, she helps me with the online store, so everything's a balance. But I'm just a high functioning dude. I know that about myself now, and that comes with a lot of like inner turmoil and problems, but it also comes with a lot of capabilities. So like for me, I only sleep like 6 hours a night, and I'm like Batman. I just go nuts all day and night. I just do stuff. I just, constantly stay in some kind of like, learning guitar, or, working on my art, or playing with my kids, or taking in the world, or exercising, or, training and all that other stuff. Like, so, I'm a kind of like, I'm a Joe Rogan guy, like when I started listening to his podcast, I was like, this is finally a guy who speaks to me. Like he knows, like he's up. He's got this dark past. Like his dad abandoned him, all this stuff. I've got all this stuff too, but I don't want to have a shit life because it'll be over soon anyway. Like I want this part to be good. This kind of like section of like where I control it, like from 20s to like 60. I want that 40 years to be good, because like I now know, like from seeing my dad and everything else play out, like once you get past, like once you're old, you're old, and like that's it. It's there's no time to like burn hard, and you don't probably want to either. You will not have the energy. So you just got to kind of like admit who you are. I think for me now, the best thing I can do for everyone is just tap into like my authentic self, and just be authentic, and and keep it positive too, because I know there's so much negativity going on out there, and you just get so tempted to throw shade at other art that doesn't seem like it deserves it. And I'll go on the record right now. I think like a Cy Twombly painting worth millions of dollars is a load of. I hate abstract art. I hate minimalism. I hate all that stuff that doesn't equate to the golden word in art. And the golden word in art to me is meritocracy. And meritocracy is everything. If I see something and it's got any kind of merit, I don't care if that merit looks like it's kind of like through luck. That's merit. The merit of waiting for something to happen, that's that's the precision of luck, and that's a really interesting theme of life. So that's the artist I am. I'm just gonna be this dude, make this work, have this big space, and it has been like with a communal vision. Like I need to meet people. I need to see these faces and like shake their hands. And I like people. I like being a person of the world. And it's going to be over soon, And I think, unfortunately, like COVID and like my dad passed away during that time, and like I said, I had to just accept this was like the time of my life and just get through it. Dude. So that really puts it in perspective. This is your life, man. It's just so small and like quick, and it's meaningless, like look at these. We always see like every month, like some important world person will die. No one gives. It could be the greatest artist in the world. Prince died. No one gives. you know.
Oh,
It's just,
dude, I did. Come on, Purple Rain was a badass song. Come
yeah,
on.
but I mean, I cried, but like, I mean, like, we move on.
Yeah,
So, you
yeah.
know, just
I
do
hear
it.
you.
Like, I'm not disrespecting any of the
No, I
people
hear you.
like that. I'm just saying, like, I really know now, like, I used to have this vision, right?
Mm,
Uh, when I was younger, and it was like a tree. Like, I just thought like my life had all these like paths and opportunities, and still kind of feel like that. Like, there's going to be adventures and stuff. But it felt like this, you know, like it felt like this kind of like thing that could spread and grow. And that was like my perspective of youth. And it was a powerful feeling, you know, like, great, like, it's all right. I've got time, I've got options, whatever. But after, like, you know, my dad getting sick for those years with Alzheimer's, and it really was a terrible way for him to die. And then being around a lot of hospitals and seeing a lot of the nursing home stuff, and just really like and even this Ricky Gervais show about like, you know, where it's about a nursing home, and there's just all these kind of like things kind of like pulling me towards like acknowledging the culture of getting really old and how society looks after old people. And it's pretty bad. It's pretty grim. Anyway, this shape now, I can kind of see like it blossoms and then it comes back to a singularity. So this kind of like opening is now closing. And
yeah.
that one path, no matter who you are, and what you do and how much money you earn and how many things you kind of make people jealous about because you're cool, you're just going to go to that one singularity of the end, you know, like, it's all a red light. So, you know,
Yeah. I
that's just
hear you, man.
how I'm
Wow.
vibing lately, you know. So my work therefore has to be pretty
Mm,
deep. Like,
mhm.
even though I want to use like humor in my work and all kinds of like, you know, sarcasm and surreal gestures, I want to also, you know, just hint to this kind of like morbid vibe. Like, we're all dying, we're all going to the end. But at the same time, I have to really give a shit. Like, I have to hone in like all my macros of life. Like, I have to give about like 5 children and a wife, and I have to nourish them and like, you know, do all those kind of, you know, really intense, detailed things. I have to really work, man. Like, so
Yeah.
I'm like Mr. Duality, for sure. That's why I always painted myself as like either the businessman or the hoodie guy. So there's always those kind of like two push and pull, like distinct kind of
Oh,
bipolar
wow.
versions of me, you know?
Wow. Wow. So that we're going to get into the painting. I want to ask you all about that, but the businessman and the hoodie guy, we're going to get back to that. Um, but you said something a little bit earlier on that just caught me, because this is so much the wavelength that I'm on at the moment, and I'm really vibing with so much of what you said there. But about that adversity thing, and that comfort breeding complacency. So for me, I found that recently I've had to do some things that are pretty hard to do, and I do them because they're hard. I don't care if other people are impressed by it or whatever. That's not why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it because it sucks. And
Mm,
because it sucks, it's like, okay, I can do this. I can get that out of the way. And I heard something recently from a guy named Wes Watson, and I'd been watching so much of his stuff on YouTube, and this guy's at a completely different level. And he was saying it's not about what, and it's not about how, it's about who. It's about who you are. And so much of who you are in that character, it comes from that adversity that you build into your life.
mm,
And how you do anything is how you do everything. And so I'm
mm,
thinking about that as I'm going through my day,
mm,
and so an example of some of the adversity that I apply to my own life and my own lifestyle. And I think this has had a dramatic effect on my art in a really good way. But it's waking up before 3 a.m. and it's doing a workout, like a heavy workout, 6 days
yeah,
a week, doing that, even on a Saturday, doing that.
yeah,
And a lot of people, I know I'm going to get comments, like I know people are going to just go, that is nuts. You're not going to make it. You're going to, well, maybe I might burn out. I
yeah,
have before. I always redline this thing. I imagine you're very similar. It's like, where's the line? I don't know. I'll tell you when I've leapt over it. Oh, there was a line. Okay, give me a couple of weeks. I'll come back.
yeah.
But it's, to me, getting that out of the way, it keeps me sharp. And I find that actually helps me at the easel in a very strange way. But I would
Yeah.
love to hear, like, how do you build adversity into your life at the moment, and
Exactly the
how's that affect?
same.
Oh, wow.
Exactly the same. Yeah. Um, I mean, honestly, I have a pretty addictive personality. So if I don't
Yeah.
like put in things that are good, that are addictive, I'll stray to the other things that are addictive.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah. So at the moment, and this has been like the best kind. This is probably why I've got this studio at the like, and this kind of like energy for me is peaking. Is because of my personal fitness. And I hate saying it. It's such a cliche. It's such a cliche, man. Okay, so here's the deal. If you want to know how I can paint like 10 hours a day and then do like 4 hours like admin work, and then like, you know, and then somehow, you know, like in between have kids and a wife and they all seem to want to stay with me. It's because I'm super on it all. Like I said, I'm a high functioning dude and you just got to own it. Like, so yeah, man, like, and then the last couple of years, like I train 7 days a week and I just eat like chicken, and an egg and a protein shake. But I'm like, you know, I'm like disciplined as hell. And then like, you know, I find myself just trying to like punish myself more and more. So like with training, it's really about like, you know, I do, you know, something and then my body gets used to it and I try and change it up, because like even with the hardest sport in the world, you'll get conditioned at it. And I've done Muay Thai kickboxing now for like 7 years. And even Fantastic. That now I like go home and, you know, still want to whack my legs with sticks, like, because I'm addicted. And so, yeah, I would say that's probably a hard thing for a lot of artists to throw into their recipe book. Like, but honestly, it gives me about, you know, 30 to 40% of what I need to be the artist I am. You take that out of my life and I'm just miserable, and I'm, you know, I'm not functioning in a way where I'm even looking at like other art with joy, and I'm enjoying other artists' success, and I'm being, you know, petulant and childlike about my, you know, my whole position and not seeing like the gratitude. So like, yeah, it's a mental health thing. And man, it's like, it's such a cliche though, you know, like to just tell my, you know, brothers and sisters out there who are painters and say, look, if you can actually like, you know, train more and like eat well and like be a full health nut as well, your career is going to go like 50% better. Like, it's just the bottom line. Like you're going to have more confidence. You're going to have more, lack of better word, balls. You're going to think clearer, and you're going to have like more of a positive mentality about the right things. You'll still be you, like almost like battery juice for thinking all day. And I can feel it. It's definitely just like constantly. And like, I think, you know, fasting and all that extreme stuff, you know, if you really want to lean into it, you should, because that stuff is so onto it, man. Like, you know, all these kind of primitive things that our ancestors did to just kind of like deal with it and get through and like hit higher kind of performance levels whilst going through, you know, their trials and tribulations were food, right? So this was all about like, you know, hunting and gathering, but like it all makes sense. Like I'm pretty much a pure carnivore. And that's just like who I'll be for the rest of my life now. If my like daughter and I like share one little like chocolate sweet, it's like pimples everywhere. It's like itchy skin. It's like, dude, it's the devil, you know, like there's like no denying it. Like I've got pimples from like one little bit of like chocolate popcorn on the weekend, you know, like it's
that's brutal.
And so I think back to my old self, and I was like this poor struggling guy eating all this stuff without really knowing the effects it had. And I was sitting down doing my work, and it upsets me to think like I could have been at a higher potential much earlier. So that's all I'll leave it at that. Higher potential, guys. If you want to acknowledge it, just acknowledge it. And that's what this dude does, like full on. I really lean into it, and it really has given me like a payoff. And that payoff does, the biggest payoff is it gives a kind of like get out there and do it, boy attitude. Like it just gives me that, you know, that ethic of like, you know, don't feel sorry for yourself. Like get out there. You're going to be lonely. You're going to be sitting there like, you know, watching someone else get more money for less work and whatever, you know, but like you can do it. Like you can do everything. You know, the only difference, like when people get upset at that museum painting stuff that like looks like, you know, wishy-washy abstract, or, you know, and then it used to get like my dad real like actually angry. Like he would really get appalled at like the the audacity of putting that in front of him, you know, like he would just be like,
Yeah.
are you kidding? Like I got all the way to this museum. I had to like, you know, get a taxi cross town. Like I've traveled to, and this is what you going to give me. But, you know, the only difference is they like looked, that's a career that like just took practical steps, you know. Cy Twombly, for all his lack of like making stuff that was cool and had merit, he probably was really good at like hanging out with gallerists and curators and like schmoozing, right? And like, so there's always a way in, like, you know, like, so if you're looking at like me or like a real virtuosic painter or someone with like social media stuff, like that can only just be like one answer. Like the other answer can be totally going out and like me, like the only time I've actually gotten any kind of like museum stuff or curatorship into important things is like I'm friends with the people. Like, you know, come on, it's total like insider stuff and nepotism and all that stuff. Like we all know it. So, you know, like it does all come back to like just go for it. Like, just seriously, man, like, come on, like everyone's gone to a gallery and just seen like really subpar stuff, but that can just be the starting point then. Like, go into a gallery, make like, you know, make an observation, see the worst art that's on the wall. And if you can make slightly better than that, then you're on a roll, you know, like imagine hearing something on the radio, right? Like a song that got played on the radio and you know, you can actually like sing and play better than that. Like you'd be like, oh, well, there's nothing stopping you. There's no limits to what you can achieve, you know? And I've realized that because my own limits were all created in here. Like I created all my own boundaries with art and I went towards all the wrong kind of, like pillars of acceptance, you know, like you've got to go where the love is. Like, don't make it super difficult for yourself. Put all the difficult stuff into making your art the best, you know, and don't try and do like gymnastics around like, you know, something you're not. I mean, I'm definitely not the person who should go and like go to a art opening with a glass of champagne and try and make friends with someone I'm not, because that's so inauthentic that like my inner self is going to like die on the inside, you know. And I'm not doing that person a favor either, because it's really like a weird thing to just try and be schmoozy to someone because you want something out of them, isn't it? Like we all know that. We all know that feeling. Like, and so I think, you know, you've got to look for your bros, look for your community and lean into, even if you've got one friend, you know, like that's an artist as well, like really lean into that, you know, your friendships and your connections and stuff. You don't have to have the whole world. Like I just want people to know that like what I'm doing is so small. Like, does that make sense, man?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
You know, like what it takes to do this and what I need, like, it's just this little, like, and I said before, like when you introed me and I said, like, I'm just a regular piece of shit. Like I'm just a regular piece of shit. Like, and the thing is though, I can function really well in the art world and make a good living out of it. So I think, there's something in there for people to find. It's like the ruleless world. Just go for it. There's no rules. Just have a crack.
I want to go into that as well. Like even a bit of the mental health space. It's not that I'm qualified to talk on it, but you know, I guess being a human being, that makes me qualified, and also just reflecting on some of the things you said there. But I had this conversation with Rachel just earlier today, actually, and I do this a lot, you know. And you mentioned something previously about this, where you know I look back. And I just wish I could give that younger 20-year-old self my 40-year-old brain and experiences. Go, stop being such a doofus and just do this. Forget about that. Focus here. You're wasting time.
We can always do that. We can always do that now to like the 20-year-olds listening. So like we can kind of like,
well, in a way,
we can stare at the
do much for me.
Like, look, if you're 20, if you are 20 right now,
right now,
I'm 40. Okay, like you can. All right, ready. Here we go. But no, honestly, it is like I just went to kind of like, I just thought I was getting my ducks in a row with certain elements of an art career. But you know, what was the biggest mistake? It was looking at people ahead of me and just copying everything that they did. Don't do that. Don't copy everything. Copy a little, you know, like, okay, you saw some guy get into a gallery you liked. Okay. Yeah. Leave it at that. Okay. but don't then go and kind of like copy like 5 other important steps that person's made. They won't fit your agenda as well, you know, like, so what I would kind of do is look at who was at 10 years or whatever ahead of me. And then I just go for all their little things and get rejected, because I wasn't what they were looking for. They were looking for that guy who was 15, 20 years ahead, who has emerged and whatever. So like, it was so impractical, guys. Like, you know, it doesn't take much to kind of, you know, I mean, maybe there is a lot to be said about, you know, taking substances and like smoking a big joint and thinking about something for really long. But I don't know what is like the kind of like intellectual way to really like stop before you kind of like make these commitments. But I see so many younger artists come to me and ask for some help. And I just see them like basing their whole career on ticking boxes. Like, okay, I've got to like set up all this kind of like stuff. So if someone kind of approaches me, like everything's perfect, like their like certificate of authenticity is perfect and everything is like this office run like high mechanism. It's like, it's taking a bit out of what you're doing. Like what you're not thinking of is like, you could literally like paint a crazy painting and put it online, and if it sings, man, you can just throw that thing to a courier without no certificate and people will just go clamoring to buy it, you know. Like, so all that stuff is you're kind of dressing your shit up because you're not putting it all into the work, you know. Like, you're not kind of, you're thinking like, okay, I'll get my ducks in a row. Now I need to win an art award. Oh, what art award should I win? Well, it needs to be one that's recognized by blah, blah, blah. And you'll just get rejected, or you'll get disappointed, or the judges will be wrong, or something just won't chime, or you won't realize some artist is totally primed to win that award already. And you have no idea that that artist is best friends with that judge, and it's all happening. And here you are. And I mean, imagine any other career where you don't know where you even are on the chessboard. So just take yourself out of the chessboard scenario. Don't put yourself in something where it's like, oh, you know, like I'm going to try and like maneuver. People can smell it straight away. So, you know, you've got to kind of like really think about it. I seriously can't work in that mechanism anymore. Like I just have to be me. I just have to talk to whoever comes to me about my art, because I don't want to be feeling like I'm selling it to anyone. I think that's the total wrong way to go about it for, you know, something so specific. Like, the stuff I'm making is very specific. It's allegorical surrealism. There's probably only about, you know, a couple of dozen painters in the world that hone in like certain kind of like weird motifs with, you know, the fine art realism side of the detail that I try to achieve. Like much like your details, like your sea foam, like we're both just engaged in like, you know, tones, blending and making and looking in and all that kind of juicy stuff, you know. But then, you know, there's this other world, and I just have to really emphasize to everyone like out there, the only reason I've ever gotten anything out of my career and done anything good and gotten the, you know, the money through the support and all that stuff is because of the work, like because the work stood on its own legs, and everything about me, you know, it didn't really like, I never seen anyone really pull out my CV and analyze it. They can see when they see something with merit. You know, people know what they see. Most collectors too have been to a lot of galleries, you know, and they too also feel sick when they see those Cy Twombly's or those, you know, Martha Rothko's. Oh, did I say that? Martha Rothko sucks.
Oh no!
It's a big orange
not Rothko.
square. I mean, you're putting it in the car. What are you doing?
That's so deep, though. His work's so deep. I mean, it's all about the different shades of different shades of red. Look, I'm not a fan either, bro.
Look, we just had Warhol and Basquiat come to the Gold Coast, and our taxpayers like had to like put out this huge amount of money. And then the Mugrabi family, who owns like 800 Warhols, who constantly just rotate them around the world, charged us another $1 million for taxpayers to, you know, kind of come up with for just, I think that was just for the logistics of the show to get.
So that's
from
what
like,
gets to me is the public money in it.
Yeah, so I mean, and for someone like me, like I've applied for a couple of things, and it's always no and rejected and whatever, and I just go whatever, like, and then it's back to go where the love is. Like, why would I even try that kind of thing? I have no idea how those boardrooms are set up with those people and those committees and like, you know, you really got to like, don't be so naive. Everyone wants to look after themselves.
Yeah.
Everyone. Like if you are coming into any place where you're not like related to someone in that building, you're not a priority. You are no one. You are just a way for them to make money. If they can't make money, and grow up, like, you know, seriously, like everyone is the same. If you came into my studio now and you don't really want to buy anything off me and you don't really want to do anything but waste my time and suck energy off me, I don't really vibe with that anymore. And you know, in all honesty, I think galleries are important, like commercial galleries where people can walk in and see, you know, what's on offer. And I've done my time. So I want everyone to understand, if you sounds like I'm dissing that, no way. I've actually like gone to an art fair with a gallery and because I wasn't prepared enough, I had to sell other people's work and not my own on the wall. And that was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had because, you know, like I didn't have my together and I was like selling someone else's work. But, you know, I did the university gallery thing. I did the artist run gallery thing for 8 years. Then I was heavily involved with commercial galleries in Australia, America, and Europe for another 5-6 years. And now I've just petered back after COVID and really looked at, you know, like if I could make 4 paintings a year, you know, and turn that into like, you know, $250,000 with some print sales and whatnot, what's wrong with that? Like, you know, I don't want to do anything else but write the books I want to write, aka make the paintings I want to paint. Like there's novels inside of me and they take more than like a quote for a client to go, oh yeah, this novel's going to take X amount. I just want to make that book and then try and sell it. If that like helps with the metaphor, I just want to be like, you know, an author and just kind of like chip away at my own pace. I don't want exhibitions. Will I do an exhibition? Sure. If it happens where my work can be re-engineered back from people and I can do, maybe. And then maybe one day I'll be in a position where I can keep a lot of work, hold it back, have a show. But I mean, art is a pretty much a big joke around like most places. Like my local art institution on the Gold Coast is, yeah, like I said, like I went in there and saw their major show and it was huge Warhols and Basquiat's of house paint thrown onto a canvas with, you know, people pretending like, oh, this is significant. It's not significant. It's going to really be a period of humanity, I think, where it'll almost be embarrassing. It'll be like, oh, look at what we tried to get away with as meritocracy in like the 80s, 90s and 2000s and 2000, like all these kind of like, you know, and I think, you know, it's a society with too much, isn't it? Whenever we become kind of like weird like this and we question the things that have always been definitively easy to answer, this is what happens. Like a society kind of grows too much. We have a surplus of too much kind of time and resources. If we're really
you said it before though, like you said it, you know, hey, don't be so naive. There's something going on with modern art. I'm convinced of it, that it's a massive money laundering scheme. There are elements to this, there are layers to this that a lot of people don't realize. And so when we see the banana taped to the wall, we don't have any idea about the greater context of that. There's no sense of getting bent out of shape. But you know, but my father said something when I was very young, and this will always stick with me. It's hardly original, but you know, the only way to win is not to play. And I'm just not interested. You know, when I was first starting out, I was thinking, yeah, I want to be part of that clique. I want to be part of that world. One of my greatest regrets now looking back is succumbing to the pressure of having to enter awards and competitions because people told me that's what I should do and it would look great for my CV. No one has asked, nobody ever has asked to see my CV. And I always regret going for those competitions because I went against myself. I'm like, look, great. I'm so glad. I had a really good buddy of mine. His name was Matt Doust. He was an incredible painter and sadly passed away many, many years ago. And he was in the Archibald. And, you know, I remember talking to him about this at length. And I thought, well, look, if you want to do that, if you're genuine about that, fantastic, go for it, enjoy. But for me, I was just like, dude, and I remember going for it and getting rejected, but it wasn't the rejection that stung quite as much as letting myself down and going against what I knew. It's like, this is not my game. You know, I'm not doing it, you know?
I can see where you're at. Look, you're in your fantasy, like you indulge. Yeah, like I have these moments that I make a movie about how important and cool and interesting I am, because I think it's a natural ego inclination. So like, yeah, like I enter this art competition and I win and I'm on the news, and then like this film director's like, that guy is so interesting.
He's the hottest thing ever.
Yeah, can he act? And does he have abs? And then it's like, can he play guitar? And honestly, if anyone has never watched The Office, the UK version of The Office,
yeah,
we're all David Brent. We really do have an inner soul that really wants everyone to kind of stop and look and go, wow, your soul is special. You're different. You are. And I from a very early age had this strong sense of fantasies in my head where I would win some awesome sport thing, or I'd just be important. And I still have these impulses. Like I drift away painting. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if like someone awesome discovered me and then loved my work and then made a documentary, and then that went to Cannes, and then you know, this band wanted me to jam with them. Like, what are we doing in our heads? We can project all these kind of scenarios, but it actually does manifest into your real actions. And all of a sudden you're standing there in a crowd at an art awards thing going, oh yeah, like I'm standing here like thinking this is gonna, like, you know, be the start of a scene where I get to go up and be on the podium, but it's not. It's like I said, it's the curator's cousin who's got a nephew who's painted the, you know, and so there's all this kind of like inner tapestry going on. You didn't realize, and you just realized that you set yourself up for failure. But what I do enjoy about people are those movies that we all want to have in our head. Like I really love it. You know, picture. Like in mine, I'm
best
like
picture.
Yeah, I'm jamming with like Tenacious D, you know, like Sister Down, and they all love me. Like I'm the most special one. Like, and I think like you just have to admit it. Like we are potentially all the most narcissistic things out there. Like American Psycho spoke to me on that level, you know.
Yeah. Well, just on that, because I just want to make sure that because there's a thread there. And so when I'm thinking about it, because I get a bunch of young people reaching out to me and other people, just because they want to set goals, they want to achieve something, they want to go for something, and I'm so much about that still, and the goal setting and the achievement and all of that, and having a wonderful career and actually setting the bar really high for yourself. But I think what's important is, what is your motivation? See, in that space, I was thinking, okay, if I do this, then that will mean I am somebody and I'm important, and therefore I deserve love. You know, fundamentally, that's what it boiled down to. But what ended up happening was I realized, oh, hang on a second, I already am somebody. And authentically, what is the most authentic expression of myself that is honest? And now what I found, and this is why, like right now, I've just entered my 40s, and I'm having the best time ever as well. But it's because, you know, of understanding now who I am, and who I am is what I can contribute to somebody else. That's it right there. And so it's no longer about the getting. It's more about, man, I'm so excited today because I get to talk to you, and we get to have this amazing conversation, and I get to put this out there to the world, and it's awesome. And I get to do this and I get to do that. And it's more kind of service oriented. And now it's not about, it's about contribution and growth. It's not about the things that I can get, because before it had to do with significance and this feeling of certainty. And like, no, I'm certain I deserve love. And you know, that was a difficult thing to let go of, man. That was a really difficult thing, just personally speaking.
Yeah, but it is clown world out there. It's got that Zoolander kind of vibe. Like you feel like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, like, you know, and you see like, you know, the art world, it's I think it is different than the painting world. I think well, that's what we should really reiterate on this podcast, you know. So it's to the 20-year-old right now listening, like, the art world isn't the painting world. Here, the painting world is built on meritocracy. It's a strong house. There are thousands of clients around the world that love good painting. They just
100%.
Love it. They eat it up. They're waiting. They're there. They want you to do well and make the work to fill the walls on their homes, because they have an abundance of money. They have a love for art, and you know, this is what they do with their lives. And you know, if I could get to that level and buy shit ton of nice stuff that was like oil paintings, man, I would do it. I'd probably buy a lot of guitars first, but that's, you know, that's the crux of it. And the art world is like, let me think, not to slander anyone. The art world is like cause, right? So cause is like, to me, like bad, like not bad, like everything about him sucks. No, it doesn't. I'm just kidding. But look, I hate the fact that like I can't convince my mates to support me by buying like a limited edition print, but they all have the little causes on their desk, like the little statues, and they've paid like thousands of dollars for these plastic things from China, right? And they're convinced that I'm gonna like sell them for more money and resell.
Right.
And you know, over the years, even the like the plastic on them and the paint it's getting like sticky. They're not made well. But I tried to say to them, like, you know, the cause hasn't looked at these. He's looked at like one or two and like maybe seen that this is what's happening for his brand, but he hasn't like looked at each one. He's like, you buy a print off an artist like me, I check every edition, I hand sign it, I hand number it. I'm looking at that thing, I'm making sure it's a replica of my painting. And there you go. You've got like a little, you know, a little tiny piece of what I do straight from the heart. Cause, that's straight from his heart too. Like that work. So I'm not like undermining anything about that. But that's the art world. The art world is like an NFT. It's like that cause thing, because of all the context around that cheap plastic piece, like that could be worth 5 grand, 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, because of all that stupid context, right?
Yeah.
Now you've got oil painting, which is like, we've got a historical kind of legacy, which we all lean on. So I think we're safe as long as we kind of like adhere to those principles about making a painting, like actually, and I'm saying this loud and clear, like making a painting, like you can't go and like have stuff half done on G clay and then half painted over an oil paint and then tell people it's not done that way and then say it's an oil painting. I'm talking about like canvas, pencil, paint, you know, like I'm not talking about like your tricks that help your studio bust out 20 or 30 more of those pieces or whatever you're doing. And so painting is so different than the art world. So in the art world, go nuts. I mean, sell tea towels, do anything, sell a banana taped to a wall with duct tape. Like, you know, we all love that piece. That was so cool.
So deep.
It was so sick. So, you know, again, like when I got to the hit the wall and I realized, oh my God, like I'm not even a part of the art world. It was great. It was freaking great. It was like a divorce in a huge way, because I realized, oh, I'm not going to ever be like a Jeff Koons or like some, you know, some important title figure of like the contemporary art world. But like, it was also like probably how a divorce does feel. Like you've got this opportunity now to just go where the love is, and like, okay, like that didn't work. But I feel like, yeah, it was, I think if most artists could do that, it'd feel pretty light. Like I feel really light now, like knowing that that's a load of, accepting it, having the balls to put it out there. Like if you really love painting, if you love your art, and, you know, like make a stance, like, you know, fight for it. And, you know, I'm going to do some pretty cool things in this studio, which proves that I'm going to fight for more people to have a chance to even like start painting. I want to see more people paint. I want to see more people try an oil painting. The only thing I ever did that started this all off was I made one decision to paint, like to actually get some oils and just give it a go. And that's all I did, you know. And if I can help people do that through affordability of brushes or canvas or products or just like, you know, advice, I'm going to do it, because, you know, it helps us. The more people that kind of, you know, are in the language of painting and understand what it takes to make like, you know, a volume of work and go for it, they're going to appreciate us better. They're going to see that, yeah, like this is an important thing. This is a craft. This is artistry. And back to meritocracy, you know. And if you're not about meritocracy, I mean, you know, you're not in my language. It's not my world. So yeah, that's pretty much.
And again, it, you know, it does depend on what you mean about art world. I mean, there are so many different art worlds, and the one you're describing, the one that you're part of now, is very different. I mean, it's so interesting that when a lot of people are starting out, they want to make it in the art world. I always say, which one are you talking about? Because
Yeah.
the one that I exist in, you know, people from academia would look at what I do, and I know they do, and it makes them want to throw up their toenails. They're
Yeah.
just they're disgusted by it. But
Yeah.
those aren't my people, so I couldn't give a rat's. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But I feel like it's important to find that, again, coming back to that authentic expression, making the art that you want to make, and just living that 100% authentically. There
Yeah.
will be people who would love to buy that because
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
recognize that as soon
Yeah.
as they see it. Of course, focus on the quality. But look, bro, I want to change gears a little bit here, if that's okay,
Yeah.
because I've got your website pulled up here, and throughout this conversation, we've been cutting in some images of your amazing paintings, and my goodness, they are phenomenal. How would you? I mean, you probably get people making comments about, oh, it looks just like a photo. I think they go beyond photographs. I mean, it's a painting. That's the thing that's just so insanely cool about this, is that you're putting these together by hand with a friggin' paintbrush. Does that ever drive you nuts, where you're looking at something and you're like, this is a bit of colored mud on a stick with some hair sticking out the end of it, and I'm smearing this around on a bit of cloth, and I get to make this cool thing with
Yeah.
just such primitive tools. But
Yeah.
it's extraordinary work, man. Extraordinary
Well,
work.
I know it's the one thing I see other people do, and it makes me jealous.
Yeah.
Just makes me jealous. Just instantly gives me this weird feeling.
Mm.
Like I enjoy looking at other people's work. Um, it must be the same way, like, Johnny Cash must have looked at Elvis. Like, in your heart of hearts, you want to do that so bad when you see other people doing it. And a funny story is, like, one of our high school excursions was to the Queensland Gallery of Art, and we saw Jeffrey Smart's work, and he's one of like
Oh
a
yeah.
famous kind of realist. But I hated the fact that when you got up close to Jeffrey Smart's work, it really like fell apart on that like last level of detail.
Yeah.
Like, so once you got to like a foot away, the brush strokes weren't really like that tight. But what he did was kind of sell it really well, so like your eyes blurring gave you the depth. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going around the museum, and I was always like a trouble kind of, like, not trouble, but like, if there was kind of like fun to be had while you're on a high school excursion to a art gallery, I would, be off doing something fun. And I remember, like, hanging with these girls, and it was all like flirty, and we're all like having this great time. And we walked through this room of like awesome old paintings. I can't remember what they were, but I was 15, 16 years old. And I remember we walked through the museum, and we totally, completely ignored the work because we're just in our own teenage world, right? And then I got to the door, and I made up an excuse, and they kept going. And I went back, and I knew that there was a part of my brain that was just like, you know that this is your, and you just walk past it, and you kind of like pretend you ignored like your real love, And so there I am, like, and it always stuck with me. Like, what the hell? I was like, I could not leave that day without going back and just making sure like I looked this close to a painting. Like, I had to feel the connection. My eye had to see a brush stroke, and it had to kind of like connect. And it's always been like that. It's always just been like this weird obsession with detail, and like certain artworks, certain painters. I'm never really like a fan of a certain one artist or like a certain, but it's just like certain things, man, have just always given me this weird feeling that I'm completely vulnerable and jealous when I'm looking. And then I therefore know that's what I want to do. I must want to do it. If it's something that just makes my eyes so interested, and yet there's just this kind of like overwhelming like feeling like you should be doing that right now, like right now. Why aren't you in your chair doing that piece of detail that you love? You love to do it. Get there and do it. And then I'd be like, but I've got to like do 400 hours of painting to get to that last bit, so it's just all, it was never, I think that's why it's such an alluring art too. Like, to get to the end, it just takes so long, like it's just
Totally.
it's crazy. I mean, you can see now, like, I'm kind of like, it's almost like I'm talking about a person, and that's what I had to really admit. Like, when I got to the, the realization about the art world and all these other art that kind of comes out of like, making a Mickey Mouse looking character, and all of a sudden that's what like everyone's freaking out about. And I'm just saying that from someone who's had this art thrust upon them, because your government throws thousands of dollars at it and says this is the art of today, and you're like, it's a big Mickey Mouse made in China, like it's a huge thing. Like, what do we like, and it makes me think, like, we do it with every art form. Everyone just goes Taylor Swift, they just put one person at the top, and unfortunately, like, I honestly don't think that many girls like Taylor Swift. It's just repetition, and it's just peer group influence. And by the time you realize like you didn't like her, you like her. Even I like Taylor Swift now because there's just so much conditioning.
Stop.
Yeah. Oh no, man. I mean, there's so many songs in my head from my daughters playing that stuff all the
Joel,
time.
you just got to shake it off, bro. You just got to shake it off.
That's why he's gonna hate, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's to me, like, art is probably like 90% of life. I just love art. I love absorbing stuff. I love watching my shows when I paint. That's the best art to me in the world. I think like television, movies, music, I think that stuff is just like what I live for. And besides my family. But honestly, when I say what I live for, I'm going to turn this on everyone and realize, like, Stan Lee said in an interview, and it spoke to me. He said that like he used to feel that his friends were doing important jobs, and he was like, making comic books and whatnot. But someone pointed out to him that those comic books give people the joy that creates the installation around their depression taking over their lives, right? And that's exactly how I feel about the art in my life. If it wasn't for like, the music I listen to, the shows I'm into, the podcasts I listen to, the other artists I enjoy watching on Instagram, seeing all that stuff. If it wasn't for that, I would be pretty shallow, man. I wouldn't have much to kind of draw upon. And I think this world would suck. So therefore, I'm contributing my art, and I'm hopefully giving people that entertainment value, which makes their lives in turn better. And if you're making someone's life better through what you do, what could be better than that? You are a doctor. You're a soul doctor, And speaking about my art, I think I really have to now, like, make art that just shows my soul. I don't want to make, I know I can make decorative art for the next couple of decades, make a really good living if I just cut out the surrealist kind of allegorical stuff. If I just painted waves, I'd probably do a lot better actually commercially if I like took out the storytelling. But I think, like, I've seen the light. I've seen that, like, at the end of it all, the best thing that we can reveal is that there is evidence of a soul. Like we're this really different animal. We have a soul. We have something that's really in there, like a compass that looks inside of ourselves and looks at everything else. And we're pretty fascinating, man.
Yeah. There's something in your work that kind of alludes to this. I find it very hauntingly beautiful. And I hesitate to and I don't think I'm going to say, because this is the thing with art. I believe that the viewer brings to the painting their own meaning. You can have the best of intentions about what that painting means, but they're bringing to it their story. I just have pulled up on the screen here. The title of this painting is "The Time Has Come" from 2013. And so for the people listening to the audio version, I mean, could we describe this as a bit of a self-portrait? Here you are kneeled on the beach, and there's this crashing blue wave coming in, and it is just barreling down, and there's a briefcase open in front of this gentleman in a suit, a storm gathering on that horizon, and all of these papers are flowing out of this briefcase like it's been caught up in a whirlwind. I look at this, and there's just so much tension and drama in this piece. The first thing about this, though, that I'll say is what captures me is the craft, how well executed it is. And it almost feels like that's your hook. And now that you've got me, here's the message. And to me, I will say what this means to me. It means that this stuff that we deem as important, these bits of paper, the minutia in life, there's something bigger coming our way. And I don't know. It's just, I love it. I love it. But at the same time, it makes me feel pretty uncomfortable. Tell me about this piece, Joel.
I mean, this kind of work, it only comes from having, you know, a crazy life, you know, and I don't think my life's, you know, more interesting than the next person, but I will say it's had some pretty like turbulent ups and downs. Like, you know, it's kind of like, I grew up, you know, pretty much borderline with like the roughest kind of street kids. It was always kind of like, you know, sex and drugs and crime. I mean, I'm like 12, 13, 14, and that stuff is like centered of my life, you know, like there is just so much kind of like being a parent now, I've realized like, wow, like, man, I was like into straight off the bat from an early age. And yeah, it took its toll, but it also gave me this kind of Eminem quality, you know, like I've seen a lot of stuff and I've been confronted and I've been, you know, I've been hurt and I've been, you know, physically hurt. I've been, you know, I've been kind of mentally like run down with all that kind of drama. And I've also had to kind of, you know, bury some friends and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think this is, you know, this is the product, right? You get someone who just like, without any kind of like self-preservation, can't help but be honest, for lack of a better word. Like, and yeah, there is so much focus on meaningless in this existence on earth at this time in life. You know, I don't know if it was always this way with humans. You know, I'm very confused about, I feel personally like a human being caught in the wrong time. I don't know if like I should, you know, but I just feel like this kind of like society and this existence that we're in, things take so long to change that if you're born in this time in life, you're kind of trapped, you know, intellectually in a place where, you know, you have no bearing on your, you know, your societal surroundings. So there's all that, you know, like there's pretty much that kind of like introspection mixed with, you know, public awareness, personal awareness, political awareness. And then at the end of the day, knowing, okay, that painting, if I left the man out, you know, and left the papers out and just did this kick-ass wave, you know, that's a painting. But what makes it Joel Rear is Joel Rear's in that painting. Like, that's me, you know, that's me. And I'm about to die in that painting, you know, like that's what I'm saying, you know. I don't know what death is. I don't know what it's going to, where you go and what you become. I am super interested in, you know, the possibilities of all those different kind of alternate dimensions. You know, like we're made up of neutrons. Neutrons have electrons in them. Electrons can disappear and reappear. You know, parts of our body can disappear and then reappear. And then, you know, we've got this soul kind of problem. Like we have like people think they can find the soul with pineal gland. It weighs 20, you know, there's all these kind of questions. Like, what is that about? Why is DMT released when you die? Why is the most potent psychedelic known to man stored in your brain and then released when you die? It sounds like it's almost like a little ticket to the next life. And maybe it is, but we definitely don't realize, like, we're all just like clinging onto a floating rock all the time. Like, we're like, oh, what race are you, and where are you from, and what's your history? Like, what we should be doing is like holding on and going, oh my god, you're holding on to this rock too, wow. Oh, like that's what this thing is spinning. Like, we don't care. Like, American Psycho the movie is a movie like American Psycho. So, and you know, like, I always kind of like have this humorous little juxtaposition in my head. If Patrick like got together and went and worked for like some company that did like NASA research to find other, like, you know, that's just like a kind of weird, I don't know, wormhole of thought. Like, so there's Patrick Bateman is this perfect example of like, you know, completely obsessed with like status and like, when I think about those blank pieces of paper in my movie, that's like a Patrick Bateman mentality. Like, where do you fit on a piece of paper? Like, where are you on the top of that list, that constructed list, you know, that other, it's all made by other humans. Like, even like your name and, you know, like even you're kind of like everything but your body is just like, we've all invented this way of just dealing with being this animal, right? And then, you know, we have this whole other thing going on where there's life outside of this planet. Like we're a planet amongst many. Like, so it's really like humbling just when you kind of go from like a Patrick Bateman to like, you know, someone who's kind of trying to answer the bigger questions. It's like, wow, like I used to be such a Patrick Bateman all the time, you know, just like, especially at the start of my like painting career when I got a little bit of success early, you know, I thought like, yeah, I'm gonna like, soon I'm gonna win this award, and soon I'm gonna like have this gallery calling me. And it was just, it just wasn't anything that like I couldn't control it. Like I just felt like the ego starting to take over, you know. And then luckily, the best things that have ever happened to me are the bad things. Like I think the bad things in all my life have made me a better, like the more kind of like the sculpture of badness, you kind of chips away at me, like the more kind of like better I become, even though that doesn't, it's kind of like exercise, you know, the more pain you kind of put up with, the more you understand that you don't want to inflict that pain on anyone else, you know, like you don't want to kind of, you know.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, that's a good kind of like a way of rationalizing most of my duality in my paintings, you know.
Yeah.
Just that kind of like that hypocrite we all can be, where totally selfish, and then that kind of like awakened soul that can be like totally, you know, ready to take on any kind of like, you know, what does the universe mean? And like, it means I'm vice president, you know, like
Vice. I'm looking at this painting now, the Star Catchers, and you know, it's a stunning painting. And again, you know, you can see that there's a lot of layers in there, but I want to get into some technical stuff if that's all right. Because I look at this work and I'm like, okay, I wonder about that process from that initial idea through to the finished work. Because when I look at your work, you know, it's not, I can tell there's so much that goes into it from the conception of the idea through to the finished article. What does that process look like for you from start to finish? Can you walk us through?
Yeah, it usually is like, I do honestly have like a kind of thumbnail sketch that's just so minuscule, like it'll kind of be like tiny, and that'll be just like the genesis, you know. And but it's more just about like trying to like not forget, okay, like, oh yeah. So I always go out at night, really late at night, look at the stars for like a couple of minutes, and I always find myself doing that. I'll have to like lock up the house or whatever, but I kind of always look up at the stars, and I will a little shooting star, and usually happens. It's pretty 5-10 minutes. You'll usually see a shooting star, and you know. So then the idea is born, and I write down the sketch, and I'm like, I used to always like kind of throw drapes for photo shoots anyway, and when you're looking at all the kind of photos of you, I was like, oh yeah, that kind of looks like a big sack, you know. And like my childhood kind of thing starts kicking in. I'm like, wasn't there a movie where a kid was like in a sack? And so I love kind of like feeling all these kind of like flavors start to brew up, you know. And then you're like, oh, it's like influence from the Goonies, or influence from like that song that you loved, or that perfume your mum used to wear, and like it's all coming back. And I find like when I do the childhood kind of thing, that's where like my most kind of like, you know, like universal ideas come from. Like, because I think most people have the same vibes as a child, as we share the same dreams, you know, that not ready for school dream, that kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
And that one
sucks.
Yeah, and it's throughout the world. Like, it's crazy. Like my favorite show of all time is The Sopranos, and they really captured dreams well in The Sopranos, like Tony Soprano's reoccurring dreams, and one of them is he's in high school. Anyway, so Star Catchers, it starts with that, and then I'd go and kind of basically deliberately reference hunt. So that can be anything from like, you know, going out and shooting references that I know will work, or just Googling the shit out of references that I know that if I like, you know, tweak enough, like I can turn like a reference of iceberg into something that looks not like an iceberg, but I can use that reference. So I think Star Catchers, the whole landscape came out of like ice rock and me just changing and moving things around until I was happy with that kind of structure. Then the positions of me with the drape are just trial and error with a photographer friend. And usually what happens is I'm happy with the body or like one thing and the drape, and then so like I'll have to take the drape from one photo and then the body from another, or I'll have to like one leg will be just not pleasing my eye, so I'll have to kind of like change a leg or whatever. But I really like the performance as well, you know, because like in that painting is Joel Reed being an actor. Like I'm performing this kind of like thing where like, and my friends like trip out because when I do the stuff, I actually like say things out loud and I like yell and I'm like, I'm going to get this one. And I'll be like trying to like really sell it, you know, like I want to like pretend I'm catching something that's flying through the sky. And then there's, you know, like after I'm kind of working on the painting, I'm like, this has heaps of deeper meanings because it's like, yeah, like it's got the luck thing, you know, like to catch a star. And then it's got like this kind of like nuance of like people being so selfish. If we could collect a star, would we, you know, would there be a billionaire out there who would just want to own a star and like, you know, take it away and hold it in some kind of like bunker, you know? And so, you know, I kind of like, I do honestly believe like it grows and grows. Like, it's not like I grow this big thing and start a painting. It's like, I just start a painting and then like, I just let it kind of do its thing. And then before you know it, like I can tie heaps of stuff into it. And that's back to like letting people interpret it. I just let them define its meaning, because what's the point, you know? And it shouldn't have words next to it, because then, you know, you've kind of like, you're not trying to like speak with visuals, right? You know, you're trying to speak with visuals. And that was another thing the art world always gave me a lot of like, you know, annoyance about having to write 2,000 words to accompany your painting. If it needs words, then just have the words, you know? Yeah. Words can say what you're going to do. If you can't see it, then you can't see it. So yeah, Star Catchers is just one of those kind of paintings that yeah, it's process too, you know. So I have a process, as do, you know, most artists, of just like, you understand how you know you're going to paint it, like, you know. But if you were to show some people, like if I was to probably show you from A to B how I get the, you know, the Photoshop design, and most of my paintings get about 80% like designed in Photoshop. I will kind of have the, you know, the foresight to go, well, I know something's going to go there. I need to start this piece and I'll work it out as I'm doing it. But yeah, Photoshop is key, you know? So in that sense, like creatively, I'm a digital artist in so many ways, you know, like, and that's when NFTs and cryptos, all that stuff came around. I was like, well, you know, I'm going to lean into this. This is something that I've always been like. I've always been like a digital artist. I've always been like, you know, I studied illustration. I actually wanted to be an illustrator because I loved, you know, that whole ability to be on the front cover of Rolling Stone, or, you know, Mad Magazine was my thing as a kid, like big time. So yeah, I kind of went for that, but art was more like an intervention, because the first person I met after art college kind of helped me quickly learn how little illustration work there was out there to support a lifelong career. And also, you know, art is anything you want to do. It's what you want to do, you know, and turn that into your thing. So I was really inspired by this artist who was already doing that. He was doing a bit of illustration and a bit of fine art. And what would happen was, you know, like the fine art had all this kind of personal connection, whereas the illustration you just talk to editors who hated their job, you know, like, so illustration was like, you know, oh, we've got a deadline, this sucks. We can only pay you this much. And it was, you know, it was a proper job. And then fine art was like people either coming in and going, oh, you know, I love this. And just kind of like, you know, I could see straight away that art just had this more kind of personal thing going. And I was like, yeah, I really dig that. Like, I want to, you know, I want to do art. I want to be an artist of that nature. Like, I want to, you know, be available and meet people, and, you know, kind of like one of the biggest projects I'm going to work on in this studio is a 4-meter painting where I'm just going to add unlimited people into a landscape until I just can't do it anymore. But I think like my work would really suit that kind of idea, where I just keep adding people and just keep putting humanity into this painting until it feels like I've captured a good snapshot of what it's like to be alive now, you know. And by people, I mean like anyone can be in this painting, as long as they kind of like, you know, participate and do a cool pose or do something. I want like people with all kinds of like gestures, like binoculars or looking at their phone, like just something that really like kind of speaks to maybe their own unique personality. But, you know, thinking about now being able to do such a project, as well as the other paintings I need to do for the money that I'm making, but like that would never come from an illustration career. Like, so, you know, this is just totally like, you know, it has worked out, but it didn't kind of seem like it was gonna, you know, just to let most young artists or, you know, emerging artists know, it never seemed like this kind of path was definite until it was, you know. So you're always going to be on, you know, an uneven ground as a painter, you know, as someone who has to make money from like what is generally a luxury goods, you know, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I've always thought that the best way, there is no guarantee to success, but the best way to ensure better odds was to employ just a little bit of diversification, just from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I on the art front, you mentioned something there about being a digital artist, and you know, that's informed so much of my process. Is the you know, a bit of Photoshop design, really meticulously planning out a composition, doing a digital painting that takes days to do sometimes. And I love digital painting. I mean, I got my Wacom tablet here, right here. There we go. And so I just love it. I love spending those long hours here, you know, in the studio before I do an epic work. But I was really, I was really caught off guard when AI kind of reared its head a little bit. And I first started getting some comments. I didn't pay it any attention. A couple of the comments were like, you know, why do you even bother? AI's already got you whipped. I'm like, what are they even talking about? I didn't have any idea of what was going on. And then it became, you know, are you using AI to come up with this stuff? Why don't you use AI to come up with this stuff? Now, I got a particular view about this. But from somebody that's doing surrealistic stuff, reinterpreting reference material, coming up with these crazy ideas, does AI factor into your creative process? And would you use it if you don't? How do you feel about it? How does it jive with you creatively?
I mean, I wouldn't. I'd say a lot of people seem to let that one get under their skin a bit, but. I mean, if it's just a tool. I mean, to me, it seems like it's just this, you know, generation's version of like cutout effect. You know, Photoshop, and you put up an image and like you just add an effect, and it's kind of like you see it sometimes. You go into like a gallery and like there might be a photographer or an artist kind of like doing just Photoshoppy stuff, and they're selling their prints for like $150 or whatever. Like, I think it's the same, you know, like I don't ever see AI like creeping in and like destroying, you know, like the physical world of like this painting is worth this. And, you know, I just see it being, you know, insidiously used in other ways, you know. I think art's the least worry. And, you know, like, I mean that like genuinely, like about like, you know, personal safety and stuff like that. I think AI is a real risk when it comes to like imitation and all that stuff, you know, like kind of cloning voices and, you know, trying to trick kids and all that stuff, you know, like there's just some really
Weird.
seedy concepts that
Well, with
can
deep fakes now,
the deep fake. I mean, look, the
yeah.
art I've seen on AI is just a portal to hell, you know, like it's look at it. It's just like when people
Dude,
throw out those images,
yeah.
it gives me a little shudder, and it's
Have you
like,
seen Loeb?
I think so. Yeah, the fangs and all
No, no,
that.
no. Well, Loeb is this female character who looks like a cadaver sewn together with different bits and
Oh no,
pieces,
no.
and
I
she's a
thought there was an
character.
artist called,
Well, no,
no.
no, through a series of prompts. This is bizarre. This is a rabbit hole, but I find myself going down some weird rabbit holes, bro. But somebody
Yeah,
started feeding in prompts, and then it started, and it wasn't just based on one prompt. There were other people that were finding this character as well through sort of different prompts. It's kind of where it was wanting to lead it to, and this
yeah,
thing showed up. Now I'm sounding like a crackpot. I don't care,
yeah. But there's
whatever.
like Ghost in
But
the Machine stuff. You know?
kinda,
Yeah,
but it was super dark, super creepy. And I mean, for that other reasons, I got my reasons why I don't want to mess with it personally, but I'm curious to
Yeah.
hear other artists' take on it,
No,
you know?
like I haven't used it. I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't download like a program and try and figure that out. I'm way too
Mm,
busy. I mean, I'd way rather like try and figure out how to make better video edits or something.
yeah, yeah.
Like I don't think it, like I saw that you can like put a prompt in and like I could like take a wave and write like add horse falling from the sky crashing into the wave, and it would give me like 3 solid options. So to me, I'm like, oh shit, like that's so tempting, because what I usually do then is like I've got my wave, and then I'm just like going through thousands of images of like either the horses I took photos of or the references I've just saved off the internet. And then like you'll find a good one and the lighting's not right. So like, you know, it's like, oh, if only the lighting was like coming from the top and then I could put that into a painting and that problem solved and I could move on. Yeah, so you know, it's so tempting, but I kind of know that it's going to take some work. I just would really feel like I kind of feel foolish if I was to just like jump on this AI tool and then like tune that into like, you know, and then kind of use that to then influence my work, rather than like say if it becomes so easy where it's like just like you just, I don't know, click a button, I'd probably use it then, you know what I mean? But like as long as it takes like 5 or 6 steps to like learn how to use AI as like mid-journey or whatever, I'll just resist, because I think that will be the block that'll stop me. And you know, like I you know, I don't know, like as an artist who really enjoys how they already do their process, like it just gives me a little bit of fear to think like, oh man, that would just be such a can of worms if not only like I enjoyed it, but it made like everything else like hum as well. Like say I used AI and then like I'm just like, well, what's wrong with it, you know? And then I don't know. So I guess like, yeah, buyer beware. Like just really like again, just come back to that. Like what did you want to do like with your art? And to me, it's always been about like, yeah, like touching like those strokes of oil paint, and you know, just kind of making that art that you know came from like that slow toil, you know. I don't think my art would feel the same unless it came out of slow toil. I think that's what, you know, to me is like the kind of the interesting thing. Like I'm like a beaver, and when people come across my dam, they go, look, this guy's dam must have taken so long to make. And it's like, because they weren't around to watch the dam be made, they just see the dam and they just go, this dude is nuts. But if you saw me do it, you'd be like, he's human. Like, you know, he does a little bit here, he wastes some time doing that, he's on the internet too much, he's doing too much, you know, this and that. Like you'd see, I'm not like this superhuman busy beaver, but I think, you know, everyone with this kind of impulsion to share, we don't do the reveal anymore. Like we just kind of like, I haven't been on Instagram for a week, so I better show, you know, like my painting that's like not even half done. And that sucks, you know, because I feel that pressure too, to keep posting and, you know, keep the energy going. And, you know, when you post, you'll get inquiries and online sales and all that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of things that there's a lot of poison that you'll have to swallow anyway. Like AI to me is like a cup of poison you can totally choose to avoid, just avoid it. Like it just looks, to me, it looks like a gateway to hell. It's like a portal. It's like Event Horizon. And it is
dude,
copywriting all of humanity. So what it is it's taking all our work and like mingling it. So it's kind of copywriting our work. So that's what it is. It's just plagiarized.
That's part of the sample that it's taken and it's learning from is
it's
what you put
plagiarized
online.
Yeah, but it's not us. So what we get back is like, welcome to hell. This is like, I mean,
creepy.
Yeah, creepy. You know, dude. And I mean, I kind of have like a couple of art gods in my life, and I just always go back to the Bible of what they do and did. And if I stick to that, I kind of feel a bit, you know, more centered about who I am. I'm more of a disciple of like a Salvador Dali, or you know, someone like Alex Gray. I really like from America. Like I love his kind of like presence as an artist, his vibe. Like, and you know, you don't have to be that kind of like giving and generous and stuff, but like you can tell like he's authentic, you know. There's just authenticity to me is really like that and meritocracy, like that's a superstar. And you don't have to have like $1 million mansion to be a superstar in my book. You know, like you can just make, you know, what, I don't even know, like 50 grand a year and be happy off an art career. And you're still a superstar if you only need that 50 grand, you know. But like, if you like hit your stride with like what you make and like who you are, and those two things are like pretty, you know, smoothly coalesced at the top, and that's like, you know, you've killed it in my book. Like,
yeah, right on.
I see guys like so and so and so and so. I'm not going to say name. I feel bad about saying cause, but like he's just a good example because
we can blip it. It's all good.
Yeah, but, you know, like he's a no. I mean, I'm saying cause because like good on the guy. You know, like he's killed it. He is the biggest artist in the world. I think. Is he? I don't know. Like, but
I
like,
recently just unfollowed him because I was just like, what is this? Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, he gets all the rewards. But like, to me, and you can keep this in, like I've seen his visual works. They don't strike me as anything like impressive where I go, how did he do that? That must have taken him a long time. He's a genius. That idea is cool. I don't see any of that. I see like a Mickey Mouse figure constantly reused, and it just looks like Mickey Mouse to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing inventive in there. And so I feel okay with saying like, when you identify what you like in art, you know, like Salvador Dali, even if other people don't like that, you know, a lot of people do, a lot of people don't, you know, kind of go by what they do as like you're almost like prophet, you know. Like, to me, when Dali started combining the photography references with like the dreamlike kind of land, like that was just like a perfect moment of like technology meeting oil painting. And like same with Vermeer, but Vermeer just didn't do it in any kind of spectacular way, you know, like, but when references really started getting like appropriated into like, you know, art, that's where I know like my heart's like really starts to fill up. And then when those kind of paintings also meet a bit of like surrealism and, you know, quirkiness, I mean, that to me is just like, you know, heaven. It's like, I live for that stuff. And yeah, I feel pretty, you know, comfortable now knowing that I'm just going to, you know, have this slow output. I'm not going to hire assistants to work on my paintings. I really don't feel like, you know, morally and ethically, that's anything I'm going to do. I think, you know, that's another thing, you know, as a collector, I would be a bit miffed if I found out like my painting was like half worked on by someone's assistant in their studio. Because half the time, I mean, to be honest, when people are hiring assistants to paint in their studio, they just want more money because their galleries are just saying, make more work. And I never really see artists making tremendous kind of, you know, unique, amazing works with an assistant doing. It's usually a formula painting that they've kind of like, you know, they're leaning back on as the kind of like bread and butter for their career. So I'll never have that shortcut. I'll never, you know, do some kind of weird trick where you get an Epson printer to print the underdrawing onto a piece of canvas.
Good night. Yeah.
No, that's what's going on now. And there's a lot of that. And I'm serious. Like, I have my own, you know, ethics and morality around what I'll sell as a piece of jewelry artwork. And I think at the end of the day, by doing that and you know, having that authenticity, there can be nothing more powerful for a client to witness than go, wow, like that guy is actually not going for money. Like he's just gonna work on, he's just all in for the work. I mean, you know, and you can go and, I mean, you can test me on that. I would, you know, I'll beat that test. If you want to look to see where I put my money and how I live my life, like I'm kind of just like, 100% down on, well, you know, like I could have a sick car or I could make sick work. I think making sick work is going to be a lot better for my soul, you know, like, and if you want to, you know, flex and all that other stuff, just know that like when you're on Instagram flexing, you're just hurting people, man. Like you know, like so many people need to get real. Like, stop hurting humanity with your flexing stuff. Like, you might be able to take it, and then you might also have this kind of like feeling that your influence is going to inspire people, but really, like, inspiration comes from being honest. Like, it comes from like letting your flaws go. Like I think like the best thing I've ever done in all my artwork is let my secrets go, and they're right there for people to see. You know, like there's literally like self-portraits I've done where my head's just barely above water and I've got an anchor weighing down my leg, you know, and the painting's called See Me. And I'm saying to you, like, see me. I'm not this awesome, like, art guy who has it all sorted out. It's like I just fought for something that I loved, and I've been able to do it for 20 years, you know, and now I can kind of like give a perspective on what that 20 years has been like. That's what I can offer. Like I can't offer anything else. And to my clients who buy my paintings, I think they're all pretty lucky. I think, and I actually say that to most of them. I say, you know, like, you're getting something that's pretty rare, like, you know, and they wait a long time for these paintings. And, you know, I feel like that honesty resonates with them, because then they go and check, you know, the website and see what actually is happening. And there's not much happening. Like there's not this kind of like, you know, just constant flow falling out of my ass of like, you know, I've got to play to the gallery, you got to keep them happy. And I think, you know, if you're in a situation where you're making 8 to 12 paintings right now for a gallery, I mean, galleries might hate me for saying this, but you're not doing your artwork the service it deserves. Like you're doing 8 to 12 paintings for a gallery. Every time I look at a painting and I just want to like make it not exist anymore and take it off my website, it was when I was in that position of making 8 to 12 paintings for a gallery, because the work just wasn't even artwork. Like it wasn't like the proper stuff, you know, like it was like asking Kurt Cobain to write a song about a Big Mac, you know, like it's not going to be the same as like Come As You Are, is it? Like it's not going to be, you know, his Pennyroyal Tea. Like it's going to be a song about a Big Mac because you made him hurry up, you know. And then it's all just, it's a big loss for everyone. But when you let Joel Reed just do his thing, be patient, like I do stuff, and you know it's stuff I want to leave on my website forever, you know, like, and then therefore it'll live forever and people will, you know, get that. And I don't know, it's hard. It can be really hard, you know, because clients want to also, you know, come in and be a part of it. And you know, you've got to resist. They're going to say, oh, would you mind, you know, doing this and doing that? And you know, just try and, you know, keep it clean. It's your thing, you know. And don't play to the gallery. Don't.
Do you have a gallery now, Joel?
I have many galleries that I could work with straight away, because I've been pretty straightforward and honest with them, you know, and they know the deal. But they also know that here's the deal now. Like if I give them a painting, they're mostly in for a 50-50 split. Okay. And that's fine. All I really, really want from that 50-50 split is the fact that that client came from them. But unfortunately, what happens most of the time is I give my paintings to galleries and my clients go over to that gallery and buy the painting and then, you know, come back and go, well, we gave them 50% to take, you know, so there's no point. Those clients were mine and I was just giving them to a gallery anyway. So I really think like galleries are important, but they've got to switch it up. You know, like what I was doing for a long time with the art galleries I was involved with was I was propping up the artists that couldn't make any money, because every time I would come once a year around with my exhibition, I would make the galleries a lot of money. And then what I noticed was the exhibitions that were kind of like around my exhibitions were really like low, like they weren't doing well because the artist's work wasn't as commercially, you know, hot. And I would say to the gallery, okay, you know, we've made this money and are we going to reinvest it? And often you just get no, like you were part of a stable. And, you know, the gallery needs to put the money that comes from the successful shows to keep the other shows kind of going. And,
you know, I really, my heart goes out to young people today that are just starting out and just about to launch their career.
Yeah.
And I know we touched on this a little bit earlier on about, you know, what we may tell our 20-year-old selves, but you know, it's interesting the day that we're in, you know, as much turmoil is in the world, as much distraction and things to kind of get bent out of shape about. I personally feel, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I personally feel that there's an enormous amount of opportunity, you know, because when we started out, you know, when I first started out, there wasn't social media. I didn't even have a website. It's all
Yeah.
bricks and mortar. It was all physical interfacing. And then this internet thing shows up. You're like, what is this? So
But I guess that rug's been pulled now, like the
yeah.
sad thing is if I was to say to a 20-year-old, I really wouldn't know, because I mean, the social media rug has been pulled so hard from under everyone. Like I was
Mm,
looking at my like the amount of people that viewed stuff on my page the other day. Like I thought I'll have a good look, and man, the numbers are just so down. Like it's just like they're not letting anyone see anything. And so that's real tricky, because I kind of like blossomed in that time when Instagram was just like going crazy and everything was like,
mm,
everyone, it was quite easy to get a lot of followers like day to day. You were just growing and growing. And it felt like, that faucet was going to be on forever, but we all see the bigger picture now. So maybe
mm,
everyone can kind of not do that for the next Mark Zuckerberg and make him totally rich. And that's why I jumped on. And I do not want to preach at all about this subject. I don't want to really go into it and sell it, but that's why I got into NFTs and the blockchain. And that's
mhm,
why, without a doubt, that is something that's decentralized. That if you had 100 artists in your crew 2 years ago when this thing kicked off, you would all be sitting now on lifelong money. You would never have to worry ever again, because all you needed in that period was a crew, and you could have gotten those NFTs going, and the amount of people that would have jumped in and made you a superstar purely out of FOMO, because that's all that was happening. It was fear. Everyone was just like, I have to like grab all these NFTs now, because I don't know who's going to
mm,
be like the next Beeple, who's going to flip this, what's going to be worth anything. And there was just no one there. So I was kind of like, I'm saying no one was there in terms of my inner network. Like none of my friends were like believing me. And I was like, man, and it's still going now. Like it is still a way that I can definitely see that I'll monetize and take a revenue stream from my art. And I can see through the blockchain, like there will be definite adaptations where you can, and where you can use the utility. And this utility is what I would say to the 20-year-olds. So NFTs taught me about utility. What's utility? Utility is value behind something. So with an NFT, what they realized was if they built in utility behind something that's just merely a token code on a computer screen, if that code actually has, like, say, the ability to get you into a building that you normally couldn't get into, like that's utility. That NFT then does have value. It's a key, it's a passport. So I'm kind of thinking now, like, okay, my NFTs will have utility, but so will my limited edition prints, my skate decks, and my oil paintings. Like I basically only sell, 3, 4, maybe 5 different types of things. But if you pretty much buy something of mine, you get the utility of access to me. The collectors of my work get to collect and basically own what is a percentage of my friendship in a way. I mean, you can be my friend or not, but like if you buy my work and you're interested in it, and we could become mates, or you could just become someone who gets something more out of me than just kind of like, here's my painting, take it or leave it. So that was a huge, big idea behind getting this huge studio, because yeah, I thought, like, if I have this kick space, it's like an art gallery, and it's just like the inside of my brain. So I'm just going to deck it out over the years and just fill it with all this stuff to look at. And it's not open to the public. What is it? Well, it's the utility behind being a collector. Any collector of mine, if you somehow manage to get to the front door, it opens for you. If you're not a collector, it doesn't open. It's simple. So thinking about like the modern
mm,
world, like for these 20-year-olds, like, yeah, like have your paintings, make that your utmost. And then, behind that, when people, support you, give them more, give them, more than they expected. And that'll always work, like to just kind of keep your, fans, your followers, going, and let them know, like, it's really like more than just a business. You are a philanthropist if you buy even one of my prints. You're actually like helping me make new work, and in that kind of way, you're supporting culture. Like, so even if it's a little dollar, what's the difference? Like, and so Patreon, all that stuff, that that's cool. Instagram subscribers, that seems pretty cool. That seems like, I've got a mate who's already doing that pretty well for $15 a month. So yeah, I mean, I would say to any person who doesn't have an online store, get an online store, or have something there. If people want to, buy it, they can't buy it if it's not there, And then, hell, feel free to copy my. I'll never, I will not care. Go to my website and just copy how I've done everything, and that's how you should probably do everything, because I've put a lot of thought into it, and that's what customers and clients need to see and hear. What they want to see and hear is what's written on my website. It's just basically what's on the, the description of the products and, blah, blah, blah. And then links to my, stuff here and there. And then you can Google me and see I'm a real person. And then, I was even thinking of like setting up a phone number for the gallery that you can call, like maybe have the phone on for like 1 hour a day and just throw the number out there on the internet, like on Instagram.
And wow.
if you get through, I'll just talk to you. You've got to be a collector. Well, you've got to be a collector. I think once you're a collector, those kind of things would be like, for me, it'd be super interesting if my favorite artist threw out a phone number and then said, look, try this number all day, but the phone's only going to be on for 1 hour a day.
That's cool.
But all these ideas now are possible because my fish tank is big enough, like I can put stuff over here. I actually do want to get like a big screen that displays digital art. And I was thinking like, even to put in layman's terms, like I can't have a painting of yours here, right? Mm-hmm. But well, it's just logistically, I don't want to take a painting off you. I don't want you to have to stress about, sending one over to Australia. And what for? It's got to be a business deal. It's got to be a huge kind of contract thing.
We can talk.
We can talk, but listen, this is listen to how easy this idea is.
Yeah.
Okay. 98-inch screen, high def, 8K screen. And you send me your utmost best file. And then when I have like an opening downstairs in the space, you just have slideshow of like all your people. Like, these are my bros. Just boom, boom. Cool. And it'll even look better than like, you can have like other visual cues. But for me, I can have my paintings on the screen, my NFT animations, and then link it to other people who are doing the same kind of thing. So, just coming back to all of it, like, give your career some life support, like just pump it, just go, like you gotta try and make some money off everyone. You're probably not gonna always be lucky in one specific market. That's why I sell prints for a couple $100. That's why I sell, paintings for, what they sell for. That's the high end, and you got low end for merch. And in between is probably like large scale prints that we sell. So, you've got to kind of like have something there for everyone. And then, you can't complain. If you're not doing that, then you can't complain when you're not making enough money off your art, because that's just a no-brainer to me. I do meet a lot of artists who kind of, the first and foremost complaint is they're with a gallery. The gallery takes 50% or 40% commission, and they just don't make enough money, So, but to me, it was like, did you try NFTs? Did you try prints? And obviously, I say NFTs and crypto, knowing now we're in a really bad market. Like, it's been obliterated. So, anyone thinking I'm trying to dupe into a shitty, it's shit at the moment. Is still things still happening? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm working on another NFT animation drop now because I believe in the space. I love it. I think it's in that year when NFTs, I made more connections with artists than I had in 10 years, like meeting them and like collaborate. And hey, man, if you buy my NFT, I'll buy yours, and then we'll flip it and we'll help each other. Because basically all you're doing is help each other put a kind of stock out there into the world and going, is it valuable? And if you had your mates there to help and go, yeah, he's legit, then you would have been fine. But a lot of artists kind of slept on it, and I was a bit,
should have gotten him.
Well, I think there's a lot to gain, honestly, by making something that can be. Well, I think there is a lot to gain purely because it eliminates any physical kind of, when I send someone a print, there is a lot of kind of like stress and logistics around just that print. It's a physical object. It needs to get from my studio to that person's house, then to a gallery, then to a framer. And most of the time, you know, these collectors that will kind of come into your hemisphere, you know, like their ability to want to like have more physical stuff dragging behind them, it's over for them. They have their lives filled with stuff. They might be able to maybe get one painting or what, you know, of yours. But what I noticed was a lot of people who are on the fringe, they want to support in some way. And I think what happened with NFTs was it just became like a free for all for other kinds of things. But what I see really capable in there is a kind of transactional system that can happen without any physical objects needing to be tied to it. So I don't need to create rubbish. I don't need to create stuff. I don't need to use computers and inks and like things to make things. All I need to do is just like an email, just check what's going on, you know, and then with the utility, that can be the same as someone signing up to my Patreon. So I know you do Patreon, don't you?
Did do. Yeah. Now
So
we've got our own independent online art school. So we've
yeah.
built our own thing now, which is very exciting.
So the blockchain to me is like a way of, if you've got something of mine on the blockchain, like if you've got one of those NFT codes, like to me that just says that, like, you know, you're like a subscriber. You've got a key. You that key to me, it's important to me. It's important to you, hopefully. And I think the blockchain is you know, a good, like it's been used so much that it's legitimate. Like it is kind of constantly, you know, being adapted by important government institutions, by large companies, by, you know, all. So it is the one kind of digital bond, to put it kind of, you know, plain and simple. So I'm creating like digital bonds. So they're there. There's like going to be a, you know, a historical thing from like 2021. Certain people have like been my, you know, patrons through NFTs, and they will hold on to that, and nothing can diminish that. You know, like, to me, that's going to be something that, like, you know, I can do $1 giveaways of an NFT, right? So I can say, hey, this new painting, I finished this new painting, I'm going to turn it into 10 NFTs. Okay, it's the image of the painting. And for $1, you can go into a raffle and win the $1 NFT of that. Now, I've done that. And then the person who got it for $1 turned around and flipped their NFT for like $1,800 the next day. So someone went, well, I didn't get one, and it's only $1,800 and I can have that NFT. And what they did then was they took something that I sold for $1, turned it into $1,800. Now, all of those other NFTs worth $1 can sell for at least $1,800 too, because the value's just gone to there. Wow. So then if my friend comes over the top and goes, well, I'll offer 3,300 for one, and I'll just do it to support you, all of a sudden he just ramps everything up to that 3.3 level, you know?
So how do you get paid after that?
10% is built in. So you get a royalty.
Wow.
Yeah. So I get the initial sale, $1, you know, but for instance, my last NFT sold in an auction for $10,000 for the file of an animation. So me and my friend made an animation of an artwork, and like he helped me, like, you know, finesse the animation part. I did a time lapse of actual painting detail, which made this thing kind of come alive. And then we auctioned it. And the guy who owns the NFT, he then kind of contacted me and said, oh, I've got one of your original paintings and I want to display your NFT on a screen in my house next to the oil painting. So to me, he's just joining me on the future version of what art can be. So really, if he's smart, he can do so many things with his NFT. If he wants to, he can display it anywhere he wants. It's his NFT, you know? So he can kind of like put it up for sale, or he can, you know, he can loan it or do whatever he wants in that context. He can have it on, you know, if he has a business opening, he's got this huge kind of like, you know, ability to play an NFT of Joel Rears in the background.
Wow. I need to look into this space a bit more. My buddy Samuel, or shout out to Samuel, was telling me about it. I mean, Samuel first got me onto Instagram back in 2015, and then got me into crypto right when Bitcoin was selling for 1,800 at the time. And he was like, dude, you've got to get in. You have no idea where this thing is going. And I'm glad he did. Because it's a really interesting space. I'm never all in on these things. I just have a bit of a fascination and interest.
Never bet the farm, and
never
ever kind of, you know, don't do FOMO. You know, don't jump on. Like,
keep that emotion in check. You know,
do it for the right reasons. Like I did it because I already knew I was a digital artist. I was like, well, I'm a digital artist. I go, my work has been sucked into the internet since 2005. It's been abused and used. It's been spat back out. Everyone's MySpaced it, Instagrammed it, Facebook. Everyone's put filters on it. Everyone's messed with it. It looks like there's 100 versions of like one JPEG and all different color scheme. Like, you know, so it took this real like life of its own. What NFTs give you the opportunity to do is go, okay, I'm Joel Rear. Here is the file from the painting Joe Rogan bought. Here is how I intend that file to look. I'm going to mint it to the blockchain. And now that is my declaration of how that should exist in the digital world. It's not your Instagram filtered version. It's not the version on Google that's only 3 pixels wide. It's this version here that's large and that now I've embedded into the blockchain. And, you know, it's kind of like doing it's just revolving from supercomputer to supercomputer forever. You know, it's pretty cool. But for me, it solidifies what I want it to look like. So, you know, if anything happens to me, the blockchain stuff that I've minted on there is an exact representation of what I want my work to look like through a screen, you know, the colors and the, you know, the definition and the sharpness. That's what Joel Rear intended that file to look at. And you can say your website does that. Yeah, but how often does your website, you know, Shopify might change its settings. All of a sudden, you got to redo every image and rechange every. Yeah. All of a sudden, JPEG, there's a new JPEG or it's a PNG. All of a sudden, you've got to update and change your gallery type. But I just saw NFTs as a way of going, hey, look, like the physical world, we might be going through another Graham Hancock end of society thing, you know, and maybe the supercomputer survives. So, you know, if that's the case, you know, I'll put my stuff in the, there's nowhere else I can hoard it. Like I got no other chance of living forever unless I start carving into some rock, you know, and that would just be my name in big letters. Just
yeah. Petroglyph NFT. Why not?
Yeah, this is my brand.
Oh, Joel, man, this has been such a fun podcast. I've really enjoyed hearing more about your art, your story, and just things that you're into. It's been super inspiring and just such a pleasure to connect. I'll let people know in the show notes as well as the description below the video where they can find more of your work. Yeah. But what is the best place that I could direct folks to connect with you directly?
Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, I'd say if you're interested in like, you know, buying stuff, you know, obviously subscribe to the website, you know, and then most artists, they're not like most people who want to get something out of listening to me, if they're an artist as well, that's probably not your position. You're probably better off like viewing me from Instagram, you know, because that's the most kind of common one. Like, well, that's actually like the one I got the most followers on. And I feel like, okay, I'm coming from a place of power, you know, like TikTok. I've got like 1,000 followers on TikTok. So, you know, like I'm just like this, I'm like back to square one. I'm like kind of tapping my friends like, hey, do you want to give me a little share on TikTok? You know, like just I'm back to my desperation. And it makes me laugh because like even with such a good Instagram following, it's been, you know, absolutely obliterated by, you know, the way that mechanism is now turned into money. So right. Yeah. Subscribe to my website, follow me on Instagram if you just want to, you know, see the stuff. But on the Gold Coast. I cannot reiterate how good the Gold Coast is.
Good, man. You found your jam.
Come to the Gold Coast. And yeah, I mean, it is, we're pretty spoiled here. We had like something like 60, 70,000 people move from Sydney and Melbourne during COVID. And I'm pretty sure it was because they realized how cheap the houses were compared to like, you know, on the beach in Sydney, you're looking at like 15 million. And then like on the Gold Coast, it was like 3 to 4 million. And now it's peaking like because of this huge real estate boom. Now, like all the houses on the beach are like really, so, you know, like the capitalistic in me is going, oh, they need big paintings for all those beach mansions. But like, yeah, man, you know, at the end of the day, like that's just the, you know, like the Patrick Bateman in me, like, you know, like oh, I can really capitalize from this squeezing out the middle class.
You need to get down there with your business card with that embossed font, that ivory card with the embossed font and border. Nice.
No, I think this phase now for me, genuinely, I hope everyone just understands, like I'm doing the whole, if you build it, they will come. I don't want to shove my down anyone's face. I don't want people to follow me on Instagram if they don't want to, you know, and in honesty, you're not going to get, I'm not going to help your career, like just because you're really nice to me and suck up to me. Like I can't do anything to help your career anyway. I think most artists, kind of feel like artists above them have that ability. And we do. We have the ability to just lead by example if we are above you. And that's usually just by the work we make. So yeah, 90% of any of the success I've had as an artist, it doesn't matter who I am, what I look like, where I came from. It is down to how the work appeared and how it looked in context. So fortunately for me, I was kind of like, really coming out with some strong work straight off the bat. And in the gallery spaces I chose to have it hanging, I really looked like I was probably the best artist in that space. And context wise, there's certain galleries I would be in where they just would not value me at all. And then there's other galleries where, they would feel like that by having me work with them, they've got one of the best artists in the world. And so you really just go where the love is. Some people will make you feel like you're worthless if you stay in that, that vicinity. And then other places that love you, that adore you, you're probably snobbing them because you think that's not going to help like another trajectory of like, elitism, because elitism is tied heavily to the art world. But, just art world equals clown world, painting world equals meritocracy. And that's where, God's true voice with humanity, I think, shows when we are doing our best. Like when humans are doing their utmost best, I think that's when you see God's calling card. Like he's leaving his business card right there, right where that gymnast does that triple vault, or that like singer hits those notes, or that artist like makes that picture that reminds you there's a heaven. Like that's God's voice. And that's like, what you should now play to. You should maybe like, instead of, making your art for anything else, just imagine you've got to hold a show and God's going to turn up. Whoever that is in your mind, he's going to turn up and he's going to see if you got it or not. He's going to be like, this guy got it, and then you've got a lot of work to do.
There you go. Well, Joel Rea, thank you so much for being on the Creative Endeavor podcast.
Thanks, man. I'm totally honored. Totally, humbled by the fact that I'm someone who could be considered for this. And like I said, I just really I actually don't realize half the time that I could, be someone that people would want to hear from. But I guess now, like, 20 years and never having to have a job, I guess, my ability to duck some punches and make it through, that holds some value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope everyone else does the same. I hope they just stick with it, and really creates the work that, is of their utmost potential, that can just live forever. You could possibly live for thousands of years if you nail it. So let's do it.
You've been listening to the Creative Endeavor podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here in the studio, and a huge shout out and thank you to Joel Rea for being in this episode. Now, if you're not following Joel right now, make sure you change that. Go to Instagram. He can be found at Joel Rea. That is JOELREA. He's just got some amazing work on his Instagram, but he can also be found on his website at joelrea.com. If you enjoyed this episode, then please do me a huge favor. Make sure you like it by just giving me a rating, leaving me a review on whatever audio platform you're listening on. There's a place that you can do that. It helps this podcast shoot up there in the ranks, get this out to more and more people. But I tell you what would be really amazing if you could take a minute and share this with your social media, either on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. Wherever you are online in the internet, interacting with other people, please let people know about this podcast and that it's something that you find inspiring, something you listen to while you're painting or drawing in the studio. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to get out of here and get back to painting. Thanks so much for hanging out with me here. I'll see you again in another episode of The Creative Endeavor.